Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess and in today's crochet along we are going to be working on our Pete the Platypus. This is going to be a two-part video. The first part's going to include the head, the beak, and the eye detailing, and part two will include the body, the arms, the legs, and the tail. So let's grab some materials and we will jump into the pattern. So for today's project, I'm going to be using this toucan yarn for the main body in this brown color. And then I'm going to be using this baby snuggle in this kind of like off black. It's not a pure black. It's like a gray black, I would say, for the beak and like the hands and the feet. We're going to need our crochet hooks. I'm just going to be using my Furls crochet hook. This is the 5.5 millimeter that I'm going to be using for most of the project. And then I also have a 4 millimeter just for weaving in ends and such like that. We're going to need some scissors, or a darning needle. We're going to need a stitch marker, some fabric pins, and some fiber fill. We are also going to be needing some black and white yarn for our eyes. Now, I'm going to embroider eyes in this project, so I'll be using the black and white for that. If you want to use safety eyes, I would suggest 16 millimeter. And you can do the colored ones or just pure black, whatever you prefer for what you're looking for. But that is all of the supplies we're going to need for this project. So let's jump in. All right, so we are going to start off with our head. So I'm going to grab my brown yarn and we're going to start off with a magic ring. Now you should know how to do a magic ring, crochet within the round, those kind of things prior to this project. I'm not teaching you those things in this project. So if you need to learn those things, you can go back, restart this. You can go back to our other videos that we have on our channel that will teach you those skills prior to completing this project. So to start off for round one, I'm going to place 8 single crochets inside the magic ring. 2, 3, 4, I have to pre-pull here. 5, 6, 7, and 8. There we go. Now I like to use a scrap strand of yarn as my stitch marker if you've watched my videos before, but use whatever you'd like. Just place your stitch marker here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. All right, so moving on to round 2, we're going to do an increase round. So that means we're going to place 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So we're doubling up, and you should have a stitch count of 16 at the end of this round. There's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. All right, now moving on for round 3, we're going to do the combination single crochet 1 and an increase. And we're going to repeat that a total of 8 times. Single crochet, and increase. And we should have a stitch count of 24 at the end of round 3. All right, for round 4, we're just going to do single crochet 24. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and I will meet you on the other side for round 5. All right, moving on to round 5, we're going to do the combination single crochet 2, 1, 2, and an increase. And we're going to repeat this 8 times as well for a stitch count of 32. All right, moving on. For rounds 6, 7, and 8, so for 3 rounds, we're going to do single crochet 32. So that's going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch around for the next 3 rounds. So I'm going to complete these rounds off camera and I will meet you back here for round 9. Alright, so this is what we're looking like up until round 8. Now for moving on to round 9, we're starting off with an increase, so 2 single crochets in one, and then we're going to do 2 single crochets in the next 2 stitches, like 1 in the next 2 stitches. Next we're going to do an increase, then we're going to do single crochet 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then we're going to do increase, single crochet 2. We're going to do this 3 times. That was 1, increase, single crochet 2. That was 2, and one more time, increase, single crochet 2. Then we're going to do single crochet 8 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then to end off, we're going to do a increase and a single crochet 2. And that is round 9. And at the end of this round, we should have 38 stitches. So now moving on for rounds 10, 11, and 12, so the next 3 rounds again, we're going to do single crochet 38. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around for rounds 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to complete these rounds off camera and I will meet you back here for round 13. So now that we are at the end of round 12, we are going to move on to round 13. And at this point, we're going to start decreasing our stitches down. So we're going to start off with the combination single crochet 2, 1, 2, and a decrease. So I always like to do invisible decreases under the front loop of the first stitch, and then under the second loop of the next. Sorry, the front loop of both stitches, if that made sense at all, sorry. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. We'll do that again. Single crochet 2, 1, 2, and a decrease. So front loop of the first stitch, front loop of the second stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So we're going to repeat this a total of 9 times. So single crochet 2 and a decrease. Alright, and then after we've completed that 9 times, you should have 2 stitches remaining, and we will just do 2 single crochets there. And you're done round 13. Round 14 is going to be single crochet 29, which is how many stitches we have left after we finish round 13. So just 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Alright, for round 15, we're going to do the combination single crochet 2, 1, 2, and a decrease again. And this time we're going to repeat it 7 times. 1, 2, decrease, And at the end of the 7, you should have 1 stitch remaining, and we will just place 1 single crochet there. And I'll show you that. So that's 7 times, and I just have the 1 stitch remaining here, and that is round 15 completed. Now moving on to round 16, we should have 22 stitches left here. So for round 16, we're going to do single crochet 22. So again, just 1 stitch in each stitch around. I will complete this round off camera, and then I'm going to meet you back here for the next step. All right, so we are finished round 16 here, and we're down to 22 stitches. So at this point, before we continue on to finish the head, I always like to stuff the head first. So I'm just going to take some fiber fill here, and I'm just going to start stuffing. Now, if you remember back to round 9, we did kind of like a weird, increasing, and then we did single crochet 8 and then increasing. So the increases that we did are going to be forming the cheeks of our project. They're very subtle. They're not going to be huge, but they are there. And so you want to make sure that you're stuffing those. So if you can kind of see here as I'm stuffing, right here, this little out piece, those are going to be the cheeks. So that means that this right here is going to be the front of your face, and this is going to be the back. So you just want to make sure that you have the cheeks evenly on both sides, like both corners of the face. And all I like to do when I stuff is just sweep the stuffing outwards, make sure everything is filled, and I just like to continue to stuff the center as I go. There we go. So that's kind of what we're looking like. Now, if you are going to be using safety eyes, this is where you're going to place them. I'm going to be using embroidered eyes because it's just a little bit more kid-friendly. If you're going to be gifting this to a child, I would suggest embroidered eyes, or just making sure you're really securing those eyes on the inside so that they don't come out, because they can be pretty big choking hazards. So if you are going to be placing your eyes now, just remember to keep those cheeks on the side. And what you want to do is you want to place the eyes on rounds 8 and 9, between 8 and 9. So we'll count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 8 and 9 are here. And you want to have about 9 to 10 stitches in between. And we are going to be bringing in, and this is where we're going to be placing our embroidered eyes too. So it's not going to change, but we are going to be bringing in the eyes when we do our face shaping. So that's why there's so many stitches in between. They're not going to stay like that. So just making sure you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I probably would place my eyes about here if I was going to be doing safety eyes. So between rounds 8 and 9, with about 9 to 10 stitches in between the eyes. So place your eyes if that's what you're going to be doing. Finish stuffing up until this round, and once you're all done that, we will move on. We just have 2 more rounds to go for the head. So for round 17, we're going to do the combination single crochet 3, 1, 2, 3, and a decrease. And we're going to repeat that a total of 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease. That's 2. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease. That's 3. 1 more. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease. That's 4. And you should have 2 stitches left, and we will just place 2 single crochets there. Now moving on to the very last round, round 18, we are going to just do the combination single crochet 1 and a decrease. And you're going to repeat that a total of 6 times, and we should have 12 stitches remaining at the end. Here we go. Now I'm just going to place more stuffing into those last final rounds that I just did. You don't want to overstuff, like you still want it to be plushy, right? Like you want it to be a stuffy, especially if you're giving it to a kid, but you also want it to maintain its shape. So kind of find that happy medium with the stuffing. And I'm also just going to take out my stitch marker here. I'm just going to cut my yarn. And I'm just going to place a slip stitch into that last stitch, and I'm just going to pull my yarn tail through. And I just have my 4mm hook here because I like to use that at the end. All I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go under and grab the front loop of each strand and pull through my tail. I'm going to go all the way around, and this is just going to close up that last hole here. And I just like to kind of pull as I go. Here we go. And then just to finally close up that last little bit there, I just like to make a little knot, if my yarn's going to let me, which it might not. That's okay. I got a knot in before my yarn broke there, so that's good. All right, so that is my yarn broke, so I may just add another little knot here, like just add this strand in and create a knot just to secure that closed, but otherwise you can weave in your end and our head portion is all completed. All right, so once our head is completed, we are going to just do our eyes, embroider them, and we're going to do our face shaping. So if you did your safety eyes, you can skip this part and you can go right to the face shaping portion of this video. So to start off, I'm just going to grab some safety pins. I like to mark out where my eyes are going to be when I'm embroidering them. So same as what I had said earlier for if you're using the safety eyes, we're going to go to rounds 8 and 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here's 8 and here's 9. I'm just going to roughly place some pins here like that, making sure again that my cheeks are kind of on the outside. It's not a big difference, but it is there. So just make sure that you are keeping that in mind. And then, like I said, we're going to have about 9 to 10 stitches in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to just move this over a tad. Just want to make sure that they're centered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, it's 9 stitches here, 10 stitches down here. That's totally fine. So I'm pretty happy with that. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my darning needle with my black yarn. And I am going to start on the side of the head here, and I'm going to push my darning needle here up into this first spot. I'm going to take my needle out, and I'm just going to pull this through. And I have quite a lot of yarn here because I'm going to do both eyes hopefully with the same strand. And then we're going to go down into the bottom and then right back up. Take this guy out and just pull that through. So there is the first strand for our eye. Now we're going to do this about 8 times. So there's one, and I'm just going to continue making loops. Just take your time, and I like to direct the yarn to make sure that it's even on both sides. of that initial strand and there's any holes. See, there's a hole right there, so I'm going to try and fill that. So I'm just going to go back and forth, completing this about 8 times. Right, so there's 8. I like to just stick my needle underneath and just pull them so they're all kind of even. I'm going to go back down and complete one more, and then I'm going to push this over to the top of the other side, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. So once I have 8 done, I'm going to go back down one more time, and then I'm going to push this over back to the side here where I started. Pull that down. And then again, I'm just going to pull this out like that. And there are our eyes so far. All right, so I'm going to leave this yarn attached for now because I'm going to be going back in with it. But first what we're going to do is I'm going to be making the details in the eyes with our white yarn. So just grab your white yarn, and again we're going to go starting from the side here, and we're going to go into the top, pull that through, and then we're going to go back underneath and to the top again, and we're going to pull this through, and this is going to sit on the outside, so you're going to have to direct it on the outside of the eye, kind of like this. Next, we're going to do the inner eye portion. So all we're going to do is we're going to put our darning needle here. It's going to sit right between those rounds of 8 and 9 and right in the center of all the black yarn that we made. And I'm just going to push it over to the side, to the other side. And this is going to create kind of like that pupil look, like that. Now I'm just going to repeat this on the other side. Back up. And then into the center. And I'm just going to push that over to where I started here. Now this white yarn I am going to tie off here, but just don't want to tie too tightly because you don't want to pull your yarn too much because it will kind of get lost. So I'm just going to get rid of these long tails. And I'm just going to weave those ends in. There we go. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this black yarn again that's still attached to my guy, and we're going to do some face shaping. Actually, sorry, you know what? First we're going to do our eyebrows. It's going to be a little bit easier. So I'm just going to push this back over, and I'm going to push it about like half a stitch to 1 stitch over from the top of the eye. I'm just going to pull that. Next, we want to go up 2 rounds and over, so we're kind of centered on the eye, up 2 rounds. Now, the eyebrows aren't in the original pattern. I'm just adding them because I really like having eyebrows on my guys now. This is kind of an older pattern, one of my more original patterns, I would say. So the eyebrow totally is a personal preference if you want it. So there's the one eyebrow. So I'm just gonna complete the other eyebrow the exact same way. And then I'm gonna push this over to the other side. Now at this point, I'm still going to keep this attached, but I'm going to cut my tail here because I want it to be disconnected. And I'm going to just tie this part off and weave in my ends. We still need that yarn, and I'm just going to get rid of this stuff, and then we can use that. So the last thing, and honestly, in my opinion, the most important thing is the face shaping. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take that darning needle that still has your same yarn attached that you've been using this whole time, and we're going to insert it into the top of the one eye, and we're going to push it over to the top of the other eye. Just going to move this strand over a tad. Just kind of came, it wasn't tucked in there enough. So we want to have 2 strands, one on each eye. Next, I'm going to go down into the bottom, and I'm going to push this yarn tail into the very bottom of my head. Now this piece of yarn is going to sit on the very inner side of this eye, so I want to make sure I direct it that way. Then I'm going to take my darning needle off that side, and I'm going to go to the other side of the face, the other eye here, this first one. I'm going to do the same thing, insert into the bottom. I'm going to go down to the bottom here, push it through. It can be offset, it doesn't have to be through the same stitch, because we're going to be placing a body on this, so you're not going to see that. So once that is done, all we're going to do is we're going to pull. And see, as I pull, it pulls in our face, and as I relax, it releases it. So you're just going to pull until you're happy with the placement. Everybody's was going to look a little bit different. Some people like a lot of that shaping, which is basically giving us kind of this nose here. Some people don't like any at all, and that's totally fine. I just find it adds so much definition to the face. And you're going to do the same thing for this face shaping. It's going to be the exact same if you're using safety eyes. I'm just going to tie a knot there and cut my yarn. And I'm just going to weave this in. Just like this. Now I got a little bit of a dimple here from that, but that's okay. Like I said, this is going to be hidden from the, like with the body when we sew that on. So I'm not too concerned. So there is so far what our face is looking like. And we are going to move on. Okay, now we're going to move on. We're going to work on the beak. So I'm going to grab my black yarn here. And we are going to start off here with a slip knot this time. And we are going to start off by chaining 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Next, we're going to skip the first chain here. And I apologize, black yarn is notorious for being difficult to see on camera. But we're skipping this first chain, and in the remaining 6 chains, we're going to place a single crochet. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Next, we're going to flip onto the other side of the chain here. And I like to crochet over my yarn tail at this point. And working into the other side of the chain, we're going to place another 6 single crochets along that edge. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's what we're looking like. We have an oval. Now I'm going to use a white stitch marker for this guy because we are using black yarn, and I don't want to use a black stitch marker because that would just make my life a little bit more difficult. So moving on for round 3, we're going to do an increase stitch here. So 2 single crochets in 1. Next we're going to single crochet 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we're going to do 2 increase stitches in the next 2 stitches. So increase in this stitch, so 2 single crochets in 1, and then into the next stitch, 2 single crochets. Next we're going to do another single crochet 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we should have 1 stitch left, and in that stitch we're going to place an increase. And at the end of this round we should have 16 stitches. Moving on for rounds 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 8 rounds, we're going to do single crochet 16. So I'm going to complete these rounds off camera, and I will come back once we are completed all the way up to round 11. Now in this pattern, again, this is an older pattern when I wrote it, I counted the first round as just that chain. So just don't forget that when you're counting your rows, the chain is going to be the first round. So where we are right now is round 4, even though when you're looking at counting rounds and how I would write it now, I would consider this round 3. But for this pattern, we are in round 4 right now. So go to round 11 and I will meet you back here for round 12. All right, and this is what we're looking like at the end of round 11. So moving on for round 12, we're going to start off with single crochet 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, we're going to do the combination single crochet increase a total of 3 times. Single crochet increase, single crochet increase, and single crochet increase. Next, we are going to do 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. For round 13, we're going to start off with single crochet 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to do a half double crochet, double crochet by times 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a half double crochet. Oopsies. After that last half double crochet, we're just going to do 6 single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that is part 1 of our beak finished. Now this brim right here is going to be the top part. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to slip stitch into this next stitch, tie that off, and I just like to leave a good 12-inch strand, 12 to 16 inches. I always like to have more than less. And I'm just going to pull that through, and this guy is all done. And then we are going to next work on the part 2 of the beak. Alright, so moving on to part 2, we are going to be starting it very similar. It's going to start off with our chain 7, which is going to be considered round 1 in this pattern, although it's not really a true round. 4, 5, 6, 7. Then again, we're going to skip that first stitch. Into the remaining 6 stitches, we're going to place single crochet. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we're going to flip onto the bottom and crochet over top of our yarn tail another 6 for a total of 12 stitches. So this should all kind of be repeat. We already did this with the first beak. So there's 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then just placing my stitch marker. For round 3, we're going to do an increase and single crochet 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 increases. Again, this should be familiar. A single crochet 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase again. And we should have 16 stitches. Moving on now for rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. So 4 rounds, we're going to do single crochet 16. So basically this is the exact same as the other one we made. It's just going to be shorter. It's going to be the bottom part of the bill of the platypus. So just go and finish rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7, just doing single crochet 16, and we will meet back here for round 8. Alright, so this is what we're looking like here up until round 7. Moving on to round 8, we're going to start off with single crochet 2. Next we're going to do the combination single crochet 1 and increase, single crochet, increase, and we're going to repeat this 3 times. That was 1. This is number 2. And 1 more is 3. And then to end off round 8, we're just going to single crochet 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, now moving on to the 9th and final round, we're going to start off with 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do a half double crochet, We're going to do 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to do a half double crochet, and then we're going to end off with 9 single crochets. Alright, I'm going to remove my stitch marker. I'm just going to place a slip stitch here, and I'm just going to cut a tail. And there is the second part of our bill. So now we have both parts, one's longer, one's shorter, and now we can go on to the next step. Alright, so at this point we should have both the top piece and the bottom piece of our bill here. And what we're going to do is we're going to pinch these together so that you have the flat edges of both touching and the rounder part on both sides being at the top. Now all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to place my yarn tail here that's on the edge. I'm going to place that on my darning needle, and I'm going to sew this edge together. Now this is going to be touching the face, so it's not going to be seen, so it honestly does not have to be very pretty. Alright, so that's what we're looking like right now. That is now sewn together. Now I'm just going to take my stitch off there, and I'm going to put the other yarn tail on my darning needle here. This one is attached here in the center, and all I'm going to do, what we want to do here is we want to sew together this edge onto this beak, like the small edge here on, and it should sit around round 6 of the large beak. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to sew it on right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm honestly just going to push this over through the bill. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And all I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go up and down and sew this together. Now if you want them to be free, to like kind of flap around, I guess, then you can kind of skip this step if you prefer. But I kind of like when it's more secured down. I don't know, I like the look of it a little bit better, I think. So that's just kind of what I'm going to do, like that. And then I'm going to just stick that in there, and I'm going to push it back up to the top. Sorry, Bree, take that out. And I'm just going to tie a little knot here just to secure that a little bit. There we go. And this guy can just be put in there. And then we will use this yarn tail here to sew that onto our head. All right, so once we have our bill all ready to go and we have our head here, we are going to attach this to start taking that shape of our platypus. So this guy's going to sit on, it's going to start on round 6. So I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. And obviously you want the longer bill portion to be on the top, like this. And I'm just going to roughly place my pin here. And then you just want it to be centered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to place a thing right in there just so that if this moves a little bit, it's so I'm just going around here placing pins to secure this down. So you should be between rows 12 and 13 on the bottom. It just kind of depends on how wide you want your bill. So it's personal preference, I think. If you want it to be 12 or 13, doesn't matter really. So there is our bill roughly attached. I'm just going to take my darning needle here, which is just attached over here. And once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to start sewing this guy on here into the head and then into that bill, beak, whatever they're called. So I'm just going to work away at this, and you sew yours on, and then we will meet back here. So before we are fully sewn on, I'm just going to take my bottom pins out. And I just want to add like the littlest amount of stuffing into this little section here on the top and the bottom. It does not need to be a lot. You're just adding a little bit of bulk to fill out those like larger spaces that we created, but you don't want to overstuff. So I'm going to take a little bit of this out. You could also just leave this empty. Again, it's a lot of this is just kind of personal preference on what you want yours to look like. I'm actually deciding here if I even want any at all. I think I'm leaning towards none at all, so, but you can add some stuffing there if you want to. So now I'm just going to repin this. I'm going to finish sewing this on, and then I will meet you back here for the next step. Right, so I'm all sewn on. I just made a little knot. This is what my strand looks like. This is the hardest part about using this type of yarn because it's nearly impossible to sew with, and if you mess up sewing and you have to repeat, it's not going to happen. You have to kind of get it right the first time because this yarn just falls apart so bad, and it looks beautiful. I love the finished result, but it can be extremely frustrating to work with. See, more is just falling off. So I'm just going to stick this down into the body, or just below the head here where the body will be attached. And I will tie that off to something else once we add more things. So there is our bill. beak situation all attached. Just like that. There you go. Next up, we're going to work on the body. That is the end of part 1 of our Pete the Platypus crochet along. Head over to part 2 to complete the body, the arms, the legs, and the tail.